What if Nazi Germany had won World War II? A question that has fascinated historians, writers, and filmmakers for decades. But to truly imagine this world, we need to look beyond the battlefield. We must step into an alternate reality where the Third Reich not only triumphed, but reshaped the entire planet. To win the war, Germany would have needed at least one of three scenarios: successfully invading Britain through Operation Sea Lion, defeating the Soviet Union quickly in 1941, capturing Moscow before winter, preventing the United States from fully joining the war. Any of these victories could have changed history forever. Imagine a Europe where the Blitzkrieg never slowed, and the swastika replaced national flags across the continent. In this alternate world, Berlin would be the center of power. The Reich would likely divide Europe into satellite states under puppet governments loyal to Hitler. France could be permanently split, a German-controlled north and a collaborator south. Britain, if defeated, might become a German province or a neutral puppet state. Daily life in Europe would change dramatically. German would be taught as the main language in schools. Newspapers, cinema, and radio would all broadcast Nazi propaganda. The cultural diversity of Europe would be replaced by one dominating ideology. The Soviet Union would be dismantled. Hitler's General Plan Ost aimed to colonize Eastern Europe, erase Slavic cultures, and resettle the land with German citizens. Millions would be displaced or worse. Cities like Kiev, Minsk, and Moscow would be Germanized, their names potentially changed. For Ukraine, this reality would mean becoming a breadbasket for the Reich, its resources extracted, its people forced into servitude. Resistance movements might still exist, but brutally suppressed. What about the United States? If Germany had forced Britain out of the war and avoided conflict with America, it could have focused entirely on Europe and Africa. But if Germany expanded too far, a future war with the U.S. might have been inevitable. A Cold War between Nazi Germany and the United States is a chilling possibility. Instead of the U.S. versus the Soviet Union, the world might have been divided between American democracy and Nazi fascism. Nuclear weapons could have been built by Germany first, shifting the balance of power. German science was advanced. If the Reich had unlimited resources, rockets, jet planes, and even early computers could have been developed much faster. Werner von Braun's Phi 2 rockets might have evolved into intercontinental ballistic missiles decades earlier. The first man on the moon? He might have saluted a swastika flag instead of the stars and stripes. Medical science, however, would take a darker turn. Human experiments, instead of being condemned, might have become institutionalized. What we see today as crimes against humanity could have been normalized science under the Reich. Imagine a world without Hollywood as we know it. Movies, music, and art would be heavily censored. Jazz, rock, and modernist art would be considered degenerate and forbidden. Instead, propaganda films and traditional classical music would dominate culture. The internet, if it ever developed, would be nothing like today. A Reichnet, fully censored, monitored, and controlled, could have replaced the free exchange of ideas. No empire lasts forever. Even in this alternate timeline, underground resistance would exist. Secret groups in France, Britain, Ukraine, and even Germany itself could continue fighting. The Reich might dominate for decades, but eventually cracks would appear. Could revolutions have brought it down? Perhaps by the 1980s or 1990s, we'd see the world slowly rising against the oppressive order, just as the Soviet Union eventually collapsed. By the 21st century, the world would look like two competing giants: the Greater German Reich, controlling Europe, parts of Africa, and possibly Asia. The United States leading the Americas, and perhaps free allies in Asia. The Cold War as we know it would still exist, but between democracy and fascism. The question is, who would have survived longer in such a world? Thankfully, This nightmare world never became reality. The sacrifices of millions ensured that freedom survived. Exploring these what-if scenarios is not just entertainment. It reminds us how fragile democracy is and how important it is to defend it. The alternate history of a Nazi victory is chilling, but it also makes one truth clear. The world we live in today, despite its flaws, is far brighter than it could have been. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think would have happened if Germany had won World War II? How would the world look in your version of history? Write your ideas in the comments below. I'll be reading them all. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know if you'd like to see more videos in this alternate history format.